What if I told you there was a simple lighting setup that you could use in any situation, that has the power to take your footage from this to this? And the best part, you can use this setup anywhere and anytime, and it takes less than 5 minutes to set up. Alright, so I think the simplest way for me to break the setup down is to actually use a whiteboard. So I've got our scene laid out here. This is the subject, this is our camera which is placed directly in front of the subject, and here is the natural light already in the scene, which in our case is a window. Now when you are setting up this frame, it's very important that you first take note of where that natural light source is. This is called motivated lighting, and when we are going to bring in some form of artificial light, we want to make sure that it looks realistic. So what that means is basically, if we've got a window here on this side of my face, it makes sense for us to see light coming from this side, and that is called motivated lighting. Now when it comes to setting the right exposure, the first thing we want to do is expose for the background. This would also be the point where we may add practical light sources into our scene. So for example, we may have a lamp in our scene. As you can see in this shot, I have a lamp right here, that's called a practical, and that's simply a light source that we want to see where it originates from. So it's something that's going on in the scene, whether it's a lamp, whether it's a fireplace or a candle, or any kind of light source that you want to show in the scene. That's a practical light source. So we want to expose for those light sources and for the general background of the scene. And then once that is exposed, then we're going to add in our main light, which is called a key light. So you're going to place that key light at a 45-degree angle to your subject. Now the reason we're going to do this is because it's going to create a type of lighting called Rembrandt lighting. Now Rembrandt lighting is a very popular lighting style that's often used in Hollywood films, TV shows, anything like that. It creates a good amount of depth from the highlights and the shadows, and it's characterized by a upside down triangle shape on the subject's cheek on the shadow side. So we're going to create that by placing our key light at a 45-degree angle to our subject. Now the light that comes straight out of the key light is often quite harsh, so it will create quite strong shadows and it won't look that flattering unless you're going for that look, of course. So we're going to add some diffusion to that key light. Now a popular form of diffusion is a softbox, and this is going to basically increase the surface area of the light, and it's going to just diffuse it to make it a bit softer. So the bigger the softbox, the softer and more cinematic the lighting will look. So what this soft light will do is it will help to take out any fine lines and imperfections in the skin, and will just make them look a bit more flattering. In general, soft light is good light when it comes to cinematic lighting, especially for subjects. Now there's also one great little cheap, simple trick that you can do to get even more diffusion, and especially if you can't afford a softbox or you don't have one, another thing you can do is use a 5-in-1 reflector. So if you place that reflector in front of your softbox like this, that will give you even more diffusion and help to make your subject look even more flattering. Great simple trick. You can get these for $50 off Amazon or eBay. The next step we're going to add into this lighting setup will be a hair light or a rim light. Now what this will do is it's going to create a outline on our subject's face. So if you look here, you can see a faint outline of light on my shadow side here that's kind of creating some separation between the background and subject. I'm using this Amaran T2C tube here, and it's placed at a 45-degree angle behind the subject, so on the shadow side here. And as you can see, it just gives it that more depth. And that is pretty much it. That is how I'll do the setup. Super simple. You don't actually need to use all these lights. If you didn't have a main key light, you could simply place your subject in front of a window and use the sunlight coming through the window as the key light. That's totally fine. Again, there are so many ways you can set this up. But just to summarize, soft light is good light. Make sure you've got lots of interesting things going on in the scene, and you want to make sure the lighting is motivated. So try and make sure that the lights you're bringing in make sense and they're coming from the angle of either a practical or a natural light source in your scene. Now there is one more thing that has a huge difference when creating a cinematic look, and understanding how and when to use this could be the difference between average looking shots and a cinematic masterpiece. The lenses you use make a huge difference to your footage, sometimes even more than the camera itself. So lucky for you, I've actually created an in-depth guide on the top 5 lenses for filmmakers. You can click here to watch that video. Hopefully you've learned a few new techniques to boost your lighting game and take your shots to the next level. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.